We're going to talk about how you do some of these things in your classroom. As I said, Rosie's a mindfulness educator. She works directly with our teachers and in a lot of the classrooms. So she's going to share some of the strategies that she uses with students and how those work.
Thanks, Frankie. I always learn, as much as we do these things together, I always learn something from Frankie every time we do this. So. I want to review with you first what we call the tenets of mindfulness. I'm just going to go through some of the more like themes or topics that that we cover as part of educating the students with an actual mindfulness curriculum. As Frankie said, our teachers have been trained through mindful schools in California. There's the mindfulness fundamentals class that she mentioned that you can take, and we encourage many teachers to take if they can, that gets them started on their own practice. That is not a course you take to learn how to teach mindfulness. The next course is the curriculum course. They call it the MEE, I think now, Mindful Educator Essentials. But within that course, and even within the fundamentals class, you learn the different tenets. And Frankie hit on a few of them already this morning. But I have a set of cards I use, and they have little scripts. And when the students come to my office, for example, when we do the morning mindfulness for the 10 minutes, they love to read the script themselves. We've been working with these students since the fall. This pretty much the same group of students. And so one of them is the breathing, which is actually the one we want to work on first. The breathing, the self-awareness, the noticing, and then the body scan, which Frankie mentioned. So a body scan is a very simple activity where you just you start with your feet, where you're grounded, and then when we do it, I do it with them. It just takes maybe not even a minute, and it gets them settled in. While they're breathing, they're thinking about different parts of their body as they scan through. How is it feeling? You have a little stress in your neck. Is it tight? Is your face tight? You want to soften the facial muscles. Maybe you've exercised and there's little sore spots someplace. So a body scan is just what it sounds like. You're just scanning through and thinking about each part of your body as you go through and do that. And that's a tenet. That's more like that's kind of the core thing. As John Kabat-Zinn's definition of mindfulness is an awareness of being in the present moment, non-judgmentally. Now we know we all feel things. We all have emotions, and we try to stress with the students, you're going to have emotions. Because you're angry doesn't mean you're an angry person. You're just angry right now. So we're not going to judge that emotion. It's just emotion that's happening. We have them. So with using the mindfulness, and the core thing, I think, is to be aware of this. And we're going to talk a little bit about creating a space between a stimulus, something's happened that stimulated you to be angry or feeling stupid or you can't take this test, and your response to that. And creating that space between helps you be more in control. Another tenet that we talk about is, and again, Frankie alluded to this one, heartfulness and gratitude. Okay, so that is I'm going to give some examples of that, but reaching out, going out of yourself and going towards something else, and thinking about something besides yourself. And it's really been, it's one of with the neuroplasticity, we see changes there when people just reach out, and not just children, not just teens. When you think about something you can do for others, it's really a brain function that you're changing when you're going, and you probably experienced this a little bit yourself. We have mindful listening, and you experienced that a little bit this morning when you came in. We have the bowl we use as a cue. Visualization goes along with that. So when you came in, you maybe heard some music, and then you were able to see something. And again, that helps you get into your mindful place. We have our computer teacher at McLean, our middle school teacher. She has this on every day they come in, the students, the middle schoolers that she teaches, and it gets them settled in. So Frankie's going to talk a little bit in a minute about mirroring, and how, if you know that dynamic of when you see something or hear something, you mirror that. Emotions is a big one. Of course, as I mentioned that a few minutes ago, that's an important tenet of mindfulness. I am versus I feel. Okay. I am stupid is a lot different than I feel stupid. You probably heard that. That's something that's kind of like a thing. Because as I mentioned, I am stupid. Well, you may feel stupid at the moment, but you're not stupid. You're that emotion or that feeling you're having is a feeling and not who you are. Okay. So some things to do. Okay. I have a little exercise I'm going to do with you, one of the cards that I mentioned, and it's going along with that, creating a space. So I'm not going to ring the bell or anything. I'm just going to go through this with you and have you just kind of listen. Okay, this is called response versus reaction. These sets of cards are for adolescents, and there's 16 of them in this set that I have. You can get them online. Mindful Minute cards are called. And these are really helpful. We work with 7th and 8th graders. I work with them in the small groups as well as the 5th and 6th. And they love reading these and listening to these. They really can make a connection. So the title of this card is, In This Space Lies Our Freedom and Power to Choose and Respond. Imagine somebody does something that makes you very angry. Now imagine your reaction, your automatic response. What do you say? How do you react? Do you yell or say things you later regret? Back up and imagine that situation again, but from the point before you responded. First, consider where you feel that anger in your body. See if you can identify the thoughts associated with the anger. Now, try to watch simply as an observer to that situation. Wow, that's interesting. I'm very angry. My chest is tight. My body is tense. With the time it takes to notice all those things, you've created a space between the situation and your automatic reaction. Normally things happen quickly, and we don't allow the space. We're talking about the road rage. We don't allow the space, we just react to it. Boy, I'm mad, that guy just cut me off. Or, I can't believe she said that to me in the lunchroom. I'm really. So, bringing awareness, and that's again, come back to the definition of what mindfulness is. Bringing an awareness to it, we can create enough space to make a calmer choice, a choice that has a better outcome. And that's where the control comes in for the student, for us. If we have an awareness of it, and Dan Siegel, his book, Whole Brain Child, name it and tame it. It's one of his tenets, one of his own tenets. If you can name it and know what it is, then you can tame it and you can control it. And what more do we want our students to have than control of what's going on? So think of not just anger, there's other emotions we have. Frustration. We talked about anxiety, just the anxiety piece. So if they can name what's going on and think about a response, then they can make a better choice in how they're going to respond to the stimulus. Okay. Moving on to gratitude. Gratitude is an attitude. We did an activity with our students recently where we gave them a card. We had an activity with the middle school kids. And we paired up the 5th graders with the 7th graders and the 8th graders with the 6th graders so they could do it kind of mixed up. So we gave them these cards and we had them write something they were grateful for. I don't know how many cards we had. We had tons of them. We made a big board where they could see what they were grateful for. They could see what they wrote about school, friends, family, all those kinds of things. That exercise right there, and it only took about 10 minutes. They shared with their classmates. They shared with, with their teachers even, of something they were grateful for. This is an activity you can do with your kids. Or in some of your classes, and maybe in your writing class, you can have, I know you've heard of these gratitude journals that you can keep, students can keep, and write something they're grateful for. Sending out kind thoughts, and Frankie mentioned this. She's done some work, and I teach high school too. I teach a 9th grade class, and we do this. We do the Mindful Minute. And I don't do as much, I don't have the time, it's an algebra class, so I don't have as much time to do the curriculum piece of it. But we do our mindfulness, and if there's an appropriate world event or something that's happening that's on their minds, that they're thinking about, even though they're in class, bring an activity to class with that day or that moment or that week, whatever, and send a kind thought out, or have them, take that moment to focus on that, pushing out kind thoughts to someone. The Paris bombing, I know Frankie did an activity with her paid class, and just have them sit for a moment and think. Something happened way far away from here, but it was horrible and traumatic, and I know there were probably people my age who were involved in it, or aware of it, or had family members involved in it. Put myself in their place, send them a thought. So put yourself in the place of that person, or that group of people, or that community. And it was very powerful, she said. And these are the seniors, of course, but they were able to kind of, for that moment, think about another place in the world where things are happening. And this is how you can actually use it in your curriculum. We're finding, as we go through our journey here with mindfulness, our geography teachers using it in her curriculum, talking about different parts of the world, Syria, refugees. I spoke to a woman recently from Germany who's using mindfulness with the Syrian refugees who've come to their country. And she's using it with these children. Some of these kids haven't been in school in 4 years. And I talk to my students about that. Think about that. Think about how you come to school and every day and you got homework to do, and this kid's bugging you, and this happened at home. But think about those children who really have no home. So if you can make these connections with them, real world connections, truly, and kind of weave that in, and you don't even have to say we're going to do a mindful moment and think about the people in Syria. We can just mention the event and make that connection. Because then you feel, some of the teachers feel, I can't do mindfulness, it's taken away from my class, I don't have time. Well, you can weave it in. You could weave it into a literature class, a novel you're reading, a character in a story. Any of these things we've found, and we've only found, I don't want to say we stumbled onto it, but teachers share with us at these meetings, when we share with teachers what they're doing, they tell us these things. It's just amazing. And this isn't something we learn in a curriculum. This is just what we've experienced through the 3.5 years we've been working with the students using mindfulness. So, and these, I want to give you some, and we'll sum it up at the end, but I want to give you some things you can really do with the kids, with your teenagers, with your girls, that are not things that take a long time, don't take away really, but it's just that planting that seed or that kind of experience with them based on what you've seen earlier today about the science of it. Emotions. I want to just do one quick thing with you, going back to Dan Siegel, and kind of a simple, we heard about the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. I'm not a science person. I rely on Frankie for all that. But we can simplify this, and Dan Siegel does another great thing in his book. I wish I'd had his book when I was raising my own children. It's a little late for that, but he puts it in very simple terms, and he has lots of videos you can go. This is a 2-minute one. He talks about flipping your lid. Okay. Now you may say, well, that's an elementary thing. Your girls are way too sophisticated for this sort of thing. But if you watch, you might find it as a handy little tool to use. Okay, so you have your hand up like this. She's your brainstem, right? Your wrist is. Okay, your thumb goes in. This is your amygdala. You close over the amygdala with your fingers. Okay, so everybody right here, right now, pretty cool, pretty chill. We're just kind of hanging out, listening. Maybe, kind of not focused, but it's okay. We're in a good place. So our amygdala is under control right now. It's here. It's not screaming, as Frankie said. Sometimes it screams. Okay. Then something happens. You get a phone call, or something happened. Something happened with one of your kids, or something happens, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I can't control this anymore. This thing happened. I'm stressed. How am I going to handle it? And with students, you can equate anything happening with your girls in the classroom or in their personal lives or something. You flip your lid. Now, what's exposed? Your amygdala. Now your amygdala's in control, not your prefrontal cortex, because that flipped. Easy, right? Simple, 3 little simple things. I don't even talk to the younger ones about hippocampus. We don't even go there. But these little ones we have. We've had them interviewed, and we've had them talk to parents, and they use these words. They use this language. So if you use the same language with your girl, who are much more knowledgeable of these kinds of things, prefrontal cortex, amygdala, flipping your lid. So that's just a simple, and we find with our younger ones, we work with younger kids at McLean, of course, this is really effective. They really can see it. And we make connections, like we'll talk about Again, the control piece, how a dog chases a bone. You throw the bone, the dog gets the bone. Do it over and over again. Does the same thing. What's in control there? The dog or the bone? The bone. Now picture a lion in your backyard, if you can imagine, instead of your dog. The lion sits still, complacent. You throw a bone. Does the lion chase the bone? Probably not. He's in control of the situation, and he sits still. And he's going to decide when he needs to chase the bone. He's not going to be controlled by the bone. So those kinds of little stories, or little, whatever you can think of, a metaphor, an analogy that you can use. I use with the 6th graders, I use gears on a car. Park, reverse, neutral, drive, overdrive. They love it. It's a direct, concrete thing they can use to think about mindfulness in their brain and what emotions are going on. So these are things, you're creative folks, you can think of things yourself that might resonate with them. Again, you've got the high pressure of your classes, you've got to get these kids APs coming up next week, all these kinds of things going on. But if you can make a connection, sneak it in, through some sort of academic thing you're doing, it's effective. And it's something, like we all learn that way. You're going to remember that. And my 6th graders, it's mostly boys in this group, they love that analogy because I'm working with them again, doing the curriculum since September. So we do different sports cars. And the first one was a Maserati. So you pick out of it, because they love ringing the ball. That's a big deal. Ring the ball. Even the 9th graders like that. And they take turns. I got to make sure I give everybody a chance to ring the ball to do the minute. So any of these things that include activities is a much more effective way to connect with them on what mindfulness is and how they can use it, how teachers can use it, and how it benefits them. The last one I want to talk about is, as Frankie mentioned, the test taking. Okay, I have another card here. This is a test. Now, you don't say it to your kids, of course. You don't scare the bejeebers out of them. This is a test. But I tell you, in my day, when I was in Catholic school, that was kind of how it was related. This is a test. And you're like, whoa. And don't you have a visceral reaction to that? When somebody says that, and I've taken tests since college, and it's anxiety producing. It's just, it's just in and of itself, it's just, that's the nature of the beast with tests. And we are a test-driven society. Tests need to be taken, SATs, APs, all these things that kids have such anxiety about and such pressure about. So, how can we use mindfulness to alleviate some of that? So I'm going to do another script with you that I'm just going to read. You are about to take a test. Notice how that makes you feel. In your mindful posture, you can go along with me and do this if you like or not. In your mindful posture and with your eyes closed, imagine you are taking that test now. You're answering questions easily. Then you come to a question that's really hard. You know you learned it, but you can't remember it now. Notice how you start to feel. It's a hard question. And you think you will not be able to answer it. Without being mindful, you might feel discouraged for the rest of the test. But imagine reaching a hard problem, and instead of getting frustrated, you remember to be mindful. Imagine putting your pencil down, closing your eyes, taking a few deep breaths. Do this until you feel calm. Now imagine finishing your test with ease, feeling calm and satisfied. Try to remember next time to practice mindfulness before and during any test or quiz. So that's just a little script you can make up your own as you are approaching, as you're approaching a day or a class when the students are having a test. We have, again, going to a high school student, we have a student came through our middle school, came right from the younger grades of McLean, in the high school. Extremely anxious, off the charts. He will stop in the middle of the 50-minute class and ask his teacher, in the middle of the class, can we do a mindful minute? That'll get me through the rest of the class. So, you don't have to do it at the beginning. You can do it, if this is what this kid needs, do your minute. And the teachers have found that helps him get through the stress of 50 minutes. Remember, our school population, we have a lot of students, ADHD, as we mentioned, processing skills. Sometimes they need extra time on tests and different assignments. And then the anxiety. But I know you all have students with anxieties. That's pretty clear. We've talked a lot about that today. But this student needs that minute in the middle. 25 minutes in or 20 minutes in, can we have a mindful minute? Teacher does the mindful minute, gets through the class, and things are pretty good. This student is, I taught him myself. I taught him pre-algebra, and he's in 6th grade. Very, very bright child. Very much, but the anxiety cripples him. He can't function. That amygdala, that lid is flipped. And so we're trying to find ways to reach out to those students to help them manage their day and manage their work and manage themselves. And mindfulness has been a key to that, we found. So, okay. Let's see if there's any other ones I want to cover before we go. I think, Frankie, you were going to talk a little bit about the mirroring.
Well, I'm